Hey, good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Ride Along Radio Show. I feel like an old-time radio singer grabbing the mic and leaning into it. Rudy Valley, etc.
Rudy Valley.
You know, they grab the mic and lean into it. A crooner, a balladeer, you know. So, hey, I'm George Holt, and I was the police in L.A. for a long time, but I'm retired now. And Gil was the police in L.A. for a long time ago.
And I'm retarded now, so.
Hey, developmentally disabled. So what we do here on the Ride Along Radio Show is we lend our perspective to the events of the day, of the week, the current events that impact the community, impact law enforcement, things that people may be interested in, things that we hear other people talking about from an uninformed perspective, and we want to set the record straight or at least add our voice to the mix.
Which is mostly the media.
Mostly the media, but there's a lot of people who are experts, too.
Well, there's a lot
police tactics experts. Who knew that Facebook was a gathering point for police tactics experts? But, you know, everybody...
It's a group of them.
There's a whole gang of them. I think that's the mathematical term, is there's a gang of them.
And I think that many of them are subscribers and watchers of the Morris Media Live Network.
Apparently so, and that's good because that's where our home is. So yeah, a lot of expertise. So we're gonna sprinkle you guys with a little more expertise tonight, and lay it out.
You may not like it.
Well, if you like it or you don't, you can hit us directly at 323-293-3375. So we didn't have a lot of social media feedback. We did have some videos that were posted that we're going to play, and then we'll talk about the social media feedback we got on our own personal pages about these things. I got the Long Beach Chola fight, and you got the Santa Monica McDonald's bum fight, right? So we'll talk about what people said there, that kind of feedback. But our last show, basically,
the comments, of course, on your Facebook page,
right?
You know, they never fail to disappoint.
Well, I thought he was scared. Was one. But we'll talk about that when we get to the Long Beach.
Yeah.
We'll save that for
that. Yeah, because I have some things to say about your followers.
Well, and one of them is a lifelong friend. Actually, to both of them, both the people who made comments about that you didn't like. We're both lifelong friends. I've known both of them since I was an adolescent.
Not that I didn't like the comments.
Well, did you like it? Did you go over and press a little blue thumb?
I did not do that.
Then you did not like the comment.
Oh,
you see what I did there?
I do see that.
All right.
Wow.
So we'll get into that social media stuff there.
Wait, we got Eddie Goodman on the phone already? Oh,
is that Eddie? Is he called? Not yet. So unfortunately, we had a terrible tragedy occur, and this one, I guess, because of the nature of the attack, unfortunately, since we started this show, many police officers have been killed in the line of duty. Some of them actually murdered in the line of duty.
Right.
And I think for the first time in a long time, gunfire actually outstrips vehicle accident deaths.
Right.
Traditionally, most police officers who were killed in the line of duty die in vehicle accidents. We spend a lot of time in cars, and we spend a lot of time driving. And sometimes we drive fast in those cars, right? And we spend a lot of time in cars in all kinds of weather, 24 hours a day sometimes.
I still drive like that.
I know, me too. I have to be told, hey, what are you doing? Slow down. So, but a lot of officers meet their end that way. And in fact, a business associate of mine, Curtis Bartlett, lost his life earlier this year, who was a deputy sheriff in Virginia. Curtis was rushing to aid in a pursuit. And he ran into the back of a tractor trailer and was killed instantly.
Wow.
Yeah. But this year, more officers, over the last 12 months, more officers have been murdered, and gunfire was a leading cause instead of the traditional leading cause of vehicle accidents. The only year there was an anomaly was 2001, because we lost so many police officers in the World Trade Center attacks. So the terrorist attack was a leading cause, I think might have been the leading single cause that year.
Of course, there's a...
which is still murder.
There's a war on cops, and but you let Trish Navatnasingham...
Now, how did you mess that name up? And you've been saying it for much longer than I have.
Well, I never say it. See,
Navatnasingham.
I just call her, Trish.
Baby sis Trish?
Or Kami. One of the two. But
you guys remind me. Remember that TV show "Wait Till Your Father Gets Home," where there was a like an Archie Bunker kind of dad, and then there was a son named Chet, and then the daughter was like a really like hippie kind of hey man, living in a commune kind of chick, and they used to always argue at the dinner table.
So Trish is like Archie Bunker? That's weird.
So anyway,
speaking of Archie Bunker, if I may, just for 1 minute more. One of my sisters, I don't remember which one, was hanging out with my mom and my dad. And my dad said, I don't know what my dad said,
Right.
My dad, as I learned on my road trip, he has no idea what political correctness even means.
Right, so no filter. He just...
Yeah, so,
right.
he's from a different era, In fact, he doesn't even recognize this country. He doesn't recognize the city he lives in anymore. He just, he's just pulling in, just...
Cocooning. He's cocooning, yeah.
But I don't know, he said something, and my sister said to my mom, she goes, "Oh, my God, Pop's racist." And my mom goes, "What? Well, see, yeah. And it's fun. That was funny to me because I used to, in my arguments with Trish about this stuff, I said, "What happened to you? We were raised by the Mexican Archie Bunker, for God's sakes." So,
Archie Bunker.
But,
it took with you. It didn't take with her. She went the other direction.
Well, I started in the other direction.
Oh, you sure did. That's right.
And
see, I forget that. And even though I remember that, Gil, I forget that. That's right. You sure did.
Yeah, when I left law enforcement, I went to work in the social service industry as a consultant to different things. I spent a lot of time with incarcerated youth, California Youth Authority, and probation camps, and so worked for an agency out there in East LA, training and working with young fathers and stuff like that. And coming from law enforcement and going to that, I could see where law enforcement had kind of dropped the ball in terms of really making a difference in the community. But when I actually spent time working with criminals, I learned one very important thing, and that is they don't really want things different. They don't want to be different. They want different outcomes. But they don't want to change anything in their own lives. They're not willing to change anything. They're not willing to grow hair. They're not willing to wear normal clothes. They're not willing to act like a normal person. They're not willing to speak.
Not willing to conform.
They're not willing to. But they want everybody to treat them as if they have made all those changes. And if I may add, the reason they think they're entitled to be treated differently is because they'll say, "Well, I'm not doing crime anymore."
Okay, but I used to be a criminal, but I have a record. But
I'm a criminal. I look like one, talk like one, dress like one, hang out with them, don't want a job, but I do want free stuff.
Right.
So all these gang intervention...
Well, that's a mindset.
All these gang intervention programs. The city, my God, we spent millions, when I was out there in the 80s and the 90s, spent millions of dollars on all these goddamn programs.
Right.
Intervention, prevention, take them to Magic Mountain to... If you ask any gang member, "Hey, you want to go to?" "Oh yeah, yeah."
Hell yeah.
What, is this free? Oh, count me in. You want when you come back? Do you want to do something different? Do you want? Have I exposed you? This is the mystery.
Do you want to go work at Magic Mountain now?
Well, do you want to work anywhere?
Right.
Are you willing to walk away from this and get into normal society as a normal person and then pursue normal things and live a, quote, normal life, close quote? The only guys that I found that actually did want to do that were the veteranos who had been in prison, who had near-death experiences, and were now in their 30s or 40s, and they said, "You know what, Holmes? F that."
Right. Because they realize they're lucky to be alive still.
Exactly.
And that they better,
the youngsters coming
you saw that. No, man, because young Thundercats. But, the criminal mindset of the hardcore righteous criminal, like sure enough bad guy, their mindset is not at all incongruent. It's not at all congruent with normal people, as you said, right? There was a criminal. He was a famous burglar named Murph the Surf. And he was a second-story man, like a real big jewel heist kind of a dude.
A second-story man.
He's a second-story man. Back in Miami in the 60s, well, they called him Murph the Surf because he was a guy who hung out at the beach. He was a playboy kind of thing. But Murph the Surf said that for him, he was willing to spend 70% of his time in prison, in jail, incarcerated with his freedom taken, if it meant that the other 30% when he was out could be lived the way he wanted. He said, if I can do whatever I want to do for 30% of the time, then the other 70% is worth it. Lock me up. I'm good. He chose that criminal lifestyle. He embraced that criminal lifestyle. So there's some people who do that, man. They look at it. They lay the odds out. They look at it. That's not a bad bargain. You know,
but the mindset, and I was watching. There's a new show on TV I was watching last night. I watched one episode of it, and I probably won't watch it again. But it's a new show, and I was kind of waiting for it to come out. It's called Snowfall.
Oh yeah, it came out last night.
Yeah, so I watched it last night, and I was really looking forward to this because it's supposed to be indicative of the times when I was actually out on the street there. And I remember when crack cocaine came this way from the East Coast. And, and just before I got on the job, I used to work for JCPenney security, and my partner was Officer Jimmy Riel from Compton PD. Mm-hmm. And, I used to have a good time with Jimmy. He was so funny. He was the first one who started telling me about the gangs and this thing called crack and the problems they were having in Compton, and then it just kind of took over the black community, and I watched it, and so you were talking about mindset. There was one scene in the show last night where the mom is of course she's a single working mom, and she comes home, and her son is slanging on the side.
Okay.
But when she gets home, from work, and I don't know if it's one job or two jobs or whatever, she, her boss is on the phone, kind of stressing her about work, and so she hangs up, and she goes into her best white person voice, and her son mentioned that, and well, anyway, so the kid goes, he leaves, and she doesn't know he's going to Sling, but that's where he's going, so he walks out. So she goes to the bathtub, and pours a glass of wine, and no, not a glass of wine. I thought she had something to drink, and then she, lays back and lights up a joint, and just chills out.
Okay. Well, they said weed is a new wine, right?
Smoking weed. Well, that was just the 80s.
Right.
But the point to me was, it was that mindset, and even back then, and I see it here. I see it in 2017 now everywhere because weed is so prevalent.
Yeah, they just legalized it in Vegas, apparently,
right?
Or Nevada.
But it's this mindset, that and back then it was still a Schedule I narcotic.
Right, got sure.
But it was a felony if you got arrested with it, depending on the amount. But that mindset that. So here's how it looks to me. I'm watching the show.
Okay, yeah, lay it out.
It looks to me like here's this black family with no father, kids slinging dope, mama's at home. She works, but when she comes home, she gets high on weed.
So she's absent really from any controls.
Yeah,
the kid don't have any controls,
and you can tell that she can't really connect with the kid. He loves his mom.
Yeah,
but she's not a man. And he has bigger ideas in his head, but he doesn't have a man to bounce them off of.
To guide him.
And I just thought the writing wasn't very good. I was really
Who's in it? Have you recognize any of the actors?
No. I recognize the mom, but I don't know her name.
My old captain was having cigars last night over at Dubster Cigar Lounge next to the LAPD Academy in Westchester. Shout out to Dubs over there. And he said he was watching with the entire cast. So I guess the people who were in the show came there for the viewing party or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have to ask him who was in it. He probably would recognize some of them or could tell me what some of them have been in.
Yeah. I might give it another shot with another episode.
Well, people are saying it's good. The reviews I've seen is that it was good. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. It's not as bad as OJ.
That was entertaining to me. I did watch it after I watched it on Netflix after your reviews of it, and I did enjoy some of it.
But it's interesting to see the 80s on TV.
Oh yeah, sure.
From that, the South Central from that perspective, and I wasn't sure the clothes were quite right. Like those aren't the way that the lead pants. Character. No, the way that the lead character looked in the TV show last night. That's not quite the way the guys looked. The ones that I used to mess with, the ones that I knew who were that age but slinging rocks.
Gotcha.
It just wasn't. Like okay.
Where in LA was he supposed to be though?
I don't know. South of the 10 freeway somewhere.
They didn't mention which school he was going to or anything?
No.
Okay. Because that makes a difference, too. So, wow. All right. So we got a television show review in there. That's good, though. So I'll have to start watching that. And maybe we'll do updates with that like we did with OJ. Because that was entertaining.
I think it'd be interesting to get our perspective because we were actually out there during that time.
Right. Exactly. That's why I'm going to start watching it. It's on what is it, on HBO or Showtime or something?
No, it was on I don't know, Channel 43 on my thing, so I don't know.
So it's on cable then?
It's on cable, but it's not one of the premium channels.
Is it on Netflix? No? FX.
FX.
Okay.
Channel 43 if you're in Playa del Rey.
So what I'll do is I'll have to They'll show it over. They'll show the first episode more this week, and then I'll catch it.
All right, if you have cable, you just go on demand, and they're all.
I do. Yeah. Okay, there you go. All right. So here's where we were going before the TV review, but I'm glad we got to it.
But I would tell you, it's going to tie in to this bail reform thing. And
okay, good. That's good. So let's see. But we lost an officer to gunfire on July 4th, I believe it was, right? Or July, or the morning of July 3rd.
It was right after.
It was after midnight.
Hours after
it was right after midnight. That's right. So and it was unique because the officer was sitting in the command post vehicle actually, and was shot in the head by somebody outside the command post vehicle. So we're going to play that video, and then we'll come back and talk about that.
At first, I thought they were fireworks. That's what Roma Martinez said about what she heard last night in her neighborhood in the Bronx. Maybe on another night, she would have recognized it was gunfire. But last night was America's night for fireworks, and it was the last night of Alexander Bond's life after he committed his last crime. His first arrests were for small stuff, possession of marijuana, suspicion of selling a controlled substance. Then he did 8 years in state prison for a robbery in Syracuse. Some of that time was served at the Attica Correctional Facility, which had no correctional effect on Alexander Bonds. Last night at 12:30 a.m., he walked by a police van in the Bronx and fired one round from a .38 caliber revolver into the head of Officer Miosotis Familia. Police nearby then shot and killed Alexander Bonds. Miosotis Familia was rushed to the hospital. Her 3 kids were notified, her 12-year-old twins and her 20-year-old college girl daughter. Her 86-year-old mother, who lives in Miosotis Familia's apartment in the Bronx, also had to be told the horrible news about her youngest daughter. Word spread quickly to relatives in the Dominican Republic who suddenly had to make flight reservations to New York City. Officer Familia clung to life in surgery for 3 hours and was pronounced dead at 3:37 a.m. Her nephew, John Coelho, told the New York Times she was a warrior. Tell you the truth, she was a fighter. She was tough, and that was the job for her. She would say there was nothing easy about it, but she loved what she did. New York City police officer Miosotis Familia was 48 years old. After a day of celebration, the Bronx, New York City, and this country lost a hero last night in what sounded like fireworks, but was actually the sound of an American tragedy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a tribute, number one, but it's just terrible. And if you look at the circumstances that 3 kids and a mother, and they all depend on her.
Yeah.
The daughter's 20 years old. She's in college. 12-year-old twin daughters, and her mother's 86 years old. Had been recently recovering from cancer surgery, so she's staying there at the house with the officer. And man, you know, people don't think about the fact that these are people. I just I didn't go back and forth, but I had to make a comment. So remember, we had Earl Afari Hutchinson in last year, and he had a comment on one of his. He made a post, and then somebody came on and made a comment about, well, yeah, but cops kill more people every year. Cops kill more citizens every year than citizens kill cops. So let's not forget about that. It's like, well, what does that got to do with anything? It's like, first of all, you're saying cops kill people like cops aren't people. Number one, and number two, there's just there's no comparing, somebody who's taken down by the police and the police have to use deadly force on them to an officer who's sitting in the command post vehicle doing her job and gets assassinated. It's like, what are you even thinking about to make that kind of comparison?
Well, I heard an actual female police officer on the radio today. It was on public radio, so I'll give you that. And I missed what department she's from. I don't know which department she's from, and I thought she was a union rep for one of the departments. I don't know if it's from the East Coast or from the, but I believe it was from here.
Uh-huh.
And I hope that it wasn't Los Angeles Police Department, but I don't remember I didn't catch where she was from, what department she was from. But anyway, so this female officer goes on to talk about Familia there, and says at some point, we in law enforcement, the good officers, we have to start doing something about the bad officers on the department, because they're now and she mentioned Philando Castillo and she mentioned Alton Sterling.
That was said too yesterday. Yeah,
and she was making the point that it was on KABC. That's what it was an NPR. My bad. She was making the point that because there's so much ill will against police officers that are brought on by these incidents, these high-profile incidents,
right?
And the ones where the cops are clearly wrong, at least in Alton Sterling's case, they were wrong. That's the guy, right, that was running away from the taser?
No, that was Walter Scott. Alton Sterling was fighting with the Baton Rouge officers with a gun in his pocket in front of him.
Yeah. So that was good shooting too. But anyway, but those are the two that she mentioned, and I think she meant Walter Scott though. But anyway, so she was saying that until we do something about these officers who are out there doing these bad things, more of this is going to happen. And the radio host, rightly pointed out to her that the suspect not only had an extensive criminal history,
right.
but apparently he's schizophrenic.
Right.
Right.
So
mental
you know
illness.
what? You come get me with that, and you come hit me with that when a school teacher who's got no criminal record watches a video of some officer killing somebody and becomes enraged and goes out in the street and shoots a cop. You tell me, you give me that when a criminal, somebody who's not a criminal, when somebody who's not trying to evade arrest kills a police officer. Mm-hmm. Then maybe I'll think, well, hold on now, this is unusual. This doesn't usually happen. Or someone who's not mentally ill or whatever. When Joe Blow, citizen, has had enough and something like that happens, then okay, maybe you got a point. But criminals have been killing police officers since there's been police officers and criminals. I mean, that's just how that is. So
I think that the guy's state of mind, he's a career criminal. Number one,
he said he did 8 years in Attica.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
And so that coupled with schizophrenia, for God's sakes,
and again,
and we don't know if he's taking his meds, he's not taking his meds, or schizophrenics they hear voices, voices in their head. They see things.
He might have seen her as somebody else.
Yeah. So we
can't go on what he did and say that's indicative of anything.
Exactly.
Other than what was in his head, But that's just
I was stunned to hear a cop say that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? She's trying to say a larger point, but she used a bad example to prove it because, good cops do need to start saying something when you see a bad cop. And usually, and oftentimes it does happen, but all too often officers remain silent. Again, we're conformist, and nobody wants to be that square peg in that round hole or sticking up that peg that needs to be smacked back down. So oftentimes people don't say anything, but we're sworn to do better, so we should.
Right, but I think in terms of police officers, if I'm working with my partner and another team of officers, we respond to back them up, and they do something, they tighten somebody up, and they overdo it.
Right,
and we see it. We're at least from my experience is if you're not killing the guy and it don't involve me, it don't involve me.
Well, see, that's the thing, and that's why people are saying, but if they're wearing somebody out who shouldn't be worn out to that extent.
Well, I never saw him wear out somebody that shouldn't have been worn out. The guy should have been.
No, it's to that extent.
Shouldn't have been tightened
to that extent.
But there's a time where you go, okay,
that's enough.
You made your point.
But so what happens is, and this is why they start just washing guys up wholesale. I've met 3 young officers recently from a recent issue where something happened and the other ones didn't say anything about it. And they got rolled up. So what they started to do is, if you're aware of something, and you don't say it, you don't go and immediately report it, then you're going to be done. And so we're starting to see now is officers are starting to come out and say something because they're like, if I don't say something, then it comes out that I knew, man, I got to say something. There was a high-profile case, a high-profile arrest that was broken that way too by the officer's partner. You may remember, and here's how deep it goes, folks. About 2-3 years ago, maybe even longer. No, it was longer ago than that. It was 2011 because I was still on the job. We had an LA Unified School District police officer shoot himself and say that he was shot by an unknown assailant. There's a big citywide manhunt. Do you remember that?
Yeah, in West Valley.
Okay. Well, he's in the hospital recovering from this self-inflicted gunshot wound, and 2 of his good buddies come to see him. Okay? And there's just them in the hospital room with him, and he goes, look, guys, I did this, okay? Just so you know, I shot myself. and I was going through some stuff with a girl or whatever. So they're like, God damn, really? All right. They don't say anything. When the evidence doesn't start adding up, the investigators come to him and go, hey, man, this ain't adding up. It's kind of looking like you shot yourself. What do you got to say? He breaks and he cops to it. He goes,
about
yeah.
the powder burns and the starring.
Right. It ain't adding up. Physical evidence ain't in line with your story, So he says, yeah, I did. And I felt really bad about it. And when Joe and Bill came by earlier, I told them I just had to get it off my chest. So they went and grabbed Bill and Joe and said, is it true that he told you that? They said, well, yeah. Well, how come you didn't report it? You're fired. So they fired all three of them because he confided in them, and they didn't immediately go and say, hey, this fucker shot himself, So that's how pervasive that has gotten that. Now, if you know something, man, you see something, say something, literally, or you're going to be on the hook for it.
That's a pretty extreme example. If I walk in the hospital room to see you and I'm feeling bad because it looks like you took a round while you was out in the field,
right?
Doing
Turns
the
out you
Lord's
shot
work,
yourself,
and you shot yourself with a negligent discharge or trying to be a hero of some sort.
Yeah.
Whatever, if it's the hero thing, that's mental illness.
That is. That is.
If it's negligent discharge, you're a dumbass.
It was just him trying to.
Either way,
for some girl.
Either way. I'm telling.
Well, see, that's the thing is they didn't tell, and because they didn't tell, and this is their friend, and I know people out there saying, yeah, they should have told. And you're right, they should have told, but everybody got coworkers doing shit they shouldn't be doing, and nobody's saying nothing. And especially since he didn't say, I shot that guy over there and I planted a gun on him. Now you start thinking, well, damn, that's really like I got to tell that,
right?
Because you're thinking there's not really a victim here. Because
look, if you're a parolee, you're a career criminal, and your living, your daily living, is preying on victims who are unarmed and unaware of your presence, or get fooled by your phony niceness, your manipulation. I have no sympatty for them. When they get just like a Familia's partner. It was actually Familia's partner and another officer who killed the suspect that shot her.
Right.
When I heard that on the radio, I was not surprised one bit because it happened. She got shot. They put out the helicopter. I don't know if you heard the helicopter.
No, I didn't want to listen to it, man.
It's just
that's what I heard. It's horrific. I don't want to listen to it.
But then they recovered. And they went after him because he's only a block and a half away, and then he got killed. The suspect got killed by Familia's partner.
Good, that's as it should be.
So I was not surprised about that.
No, you should not have. No, he shouldn't have been. The suspect shouldn't have been surprised about that.
But yeah, I was going to say more about it. I'm just going to say I was not surprised that homie didn't make it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
homie didn't make it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, that's
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So, hey, you get what you get. You bought and paid for you do some shit like that. So.
Sergeant Rod Bray used to say.
Yeah, buddy. That's right.
Buddy.
So, listen, we're at the 30-minute mark, so we're going to take a break, and then we're going to reset. We're going to play a little music for you, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to get into some other stuff, and including our main topic tonight, which is bail reform. We're going to be discussing the pros and cons of bail reform. So,
and we don't mean convicts.
That's a good play on words. So stick around. We'll see you in a minute.
Yeah. What better time than now?
All right. And that was Guerrilla Radio by Rage Against the Machine.
Man.
Yeah, man. That's high energy music right there. They've always come with the high energy music.
I remember when they did that concert at the DNC.
DNC, yeah, we were there, right, overlooking the thing up there. I remember that.
And then I remember all the people running down the street and the smell of
tear gas. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was that. We had dinner and a show that night from the balcony at the Holiday Inn, which is now what the Lux Hotel, I think it is now.
Oh, is it the Lux?
Figueroa on Olympic? Yeah, it's not the Holiday Inn anymore.
Oh,
so. Yeah, but Rage Against the Machine always a good time. They have a decidedly anti-establishment slant to their music.
Damn radicals.
Bulls on parade.
Yeah.
Killing in the name of,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
everybody got something. Everybody got to protest something.
Right, they're artists. They're expressing themselves as artistes.
All right.
So
nobody cared, but.
So listen. So right along radio show supporter Vivian Ferguson. Last week, we were talking about, we posted a topic, and somehow we got to the conversation of, we talked about bail reform briefly during that, because I think it came up during the topic, and then Vivian Ferguson posted something on the page, articles about bail reform. And as I started looking into that, and thank you for posting that, Vivian, I realized that there was a lot of meat on that topic, and there's a lot of pull on both sides with that. One side is kind of driven by money, so you can't put too much credibility in that. But then there's also some people on the same side.
Whose side is that? Whose side is
the bail bondsman? The bail bondsman. They're driven by the money aspect of it because their whole industry is based on the bail system being as it is. That's how they make their money. So they would have a whole different. That's why they're really pushing this. The bail bond industry is the one that's pushing a lot of pushing against bail reform. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason that it's being pushed back against, but they've been very vocal about it. And in fact, in San Francisco, since the city council is for bail reform, the city is not going to bat for it. So the bail bonds, the bail bond association or whatever it is, is going to bat, and they're the lobby that's pushing back against bail reform. Because they're not painting it as a money thing. Of course, they can't say that. They're painting it as a public safety thing. And there's an brief interview with a bail bonds guy on here. So.
Oh, okay. There's a video.
Oh, there's several.
Oh, well,
there are several videos.
I see.
But by way of introduction, so in California, and the bail reform is sweeping the nation. By the way, it's already in effect in New Jersey. And
you can look for all the progressive states to move in this direction.
Well, no, there's a lot of them going to be moving in this direction, period, because there's some cost savings associated with it too. But in California, we had two bills introduced simultaneously. One was a Senate bill, one was an Assembly bill, and they were about bail reform. And so they were introduced in January, and just recently they have passed through the process to become law. So I have no doubt that we're going to see bail reform here in California. Probably January 1st, 2018.
Yeah, we're going to see a whole bunch of stuff in California.
So basically, just a quick Q&A. It says, how would it work? The bill would require agencies that offer pretrial services, all but a handful of counties already have them, to do a risk assessment of defendants soon after they are arrested. The assessment and accompanying recommendations would be sent to a judge, magistrate, or court commissioner who would then order the release of defendants, with or without conditions, within a certain number of hours. Would this apply to everyone? Those accused of domestic battery, stalking, witness intimidation, and serious felonies would have to appear in court for a hearing with a judge or magistrate. And if the district attorney's office files a motion for a defendant to be kept in custody, that would also require a court hearing. But the court would have to make certain findings before it could agree to keep a defendant behind bars. And there was an issue in Mississippi where there was no period of time, there's no set legal time that a defendant had to be brought before the judge and had to be charged with anything. So people were languishing in jail for a long time until the system got to them. And they were saying that there were people who were pleading out just to say, okay, listen, whatever you want to stick me with, I'm good. I just need to get out of here because I'm not going to sit around waiting for the whole trial thing. I'm going to be in here forever. I don't have any money to bail out. If you're telling me I can walk if I take this and have probation or get time served, then I'm just going to plead out. And that was a lot of people taking that way out. And in fact, I had a friend who did that, even though I wish he hadn't done it. But, he didn't want to sit in jail any longer. It was a street fight he got into. It was a misdemeanor caper. And they told him, hey, you can plead out to it or you can fight it. Instead of going mutual combat and fighting it, he said, I'm out of here. And he spent a weekend in the county jail, and he came out and never had to hear about it again. So I guess for him.
What state was that?
That was in California I'm talking about here. But Mississippi's the one that has the law that does not have a legally set time that someone can be in custody. And people would normally be bailed out during that period of time. If they don't have the money, they sit there, and you've had people languish for extended periods of time. And I think that actually may be covered in this video coming up. So we have a video. We can play the first video. And there's three sides to every story. We say his side, her side, and the truth. So we got a couple of videos here for you that lay out the different sides of it. Video 1. Yeah, I'm sorry, bail. Yes, I'm sorry.
Bail is fail.
California lawmakers return to the state capitol today, and they will take a look at the state's bail system and whether or not they should just get rid of it. In fact, lawmakers will begin discussing a new bill aimed at getting rid of bail.
New tonight, CBS 13's Macy Jenkins is in the newsroom with more on what those changes could look like.
Right now, bail is set after a person is arrested. The amount depends on a fee schedule that's different in each county. The accused person either pays up front or pays 10% of the money to a bond company. State lawmakers say that chunk of change could be too big for some.
It's a way to basically punish people and keep people in jail who are poor.
Struggling to make bail is an issue many Californians are facing today, and state lawmakers say it's time to change the system.
You got people sitting there for months because they don't have a few $100s to be able to get out of jail.
Senator Bob Hertzberg has introduced SB 10, an attempt to replace the cash bail system with another way to determine who stays in jail before a trial and who is released.
If you're a threat, you're in trouble. No threat, let these people out.
According to the Public Policy Institute of California, the median bail in California is $50,000. Even 10% or $5,000, the amount needed to pay a bail agent for release, is beyond reach for many. For bail bondsmen, eliminating bond could mean the end of their livelihood.
It's a situation where we will be replaced by a government-funded program.
But bail bondsman Topo Padilla says there's a bigger problem than he and his colleagues having to find another line of work.
You are going to eliminate an industry that at no cost to the taxpayers bails people out of jail, thus not causing taxpayers to have to pay for them to sit in jail. And when they do fail to appear in court, we are the very entity that goes and retrieves them and brings them back to court without any cost to the taxpayers.
Now, the legislation is preliminary. There isn't detail yet, but they're looking to New Jersey and Washington, D.C. for guidance, which have already moved towards a no-bail system.
All right, Macy Jenkins for us tonight.
All right. So,
Bob Hertzberg.
So so that's the move there. And I let me say this: when the bail bondsman El Topo Padilla, great Padilla's son, Topo, El Topo, which means mouse. That's mouse in Spanish, right? I think Topo is mouse. So
I don't know. I don't speak Spanish. So.
Hablo poquito, poquito pero bastante. Okay, a little bit enough. And as I recall, Topo means mouse. And so anyway, when he says you're getting rid of a system that at no cost to the taxpayer gets people out of jail, so that they don't have to sit there and be fed and housed and everything by the public. That's a bit disingenuous, because if they can get out of it, the whole idea is them being out of jail. Doesn't matter if they put up bail or not. If they're not in jail, then we're not housing them and we're not feeding them, etc. So that's kind of disingenuous to say we're getting people out of jail so you don't feed them, because if you get rid of bail, they're going to get out of jail anyway. We wouldn't be feeding them anyway. So you're not saving the taxpayers any money. But I think they would be better off pushing the public safety aspect of it. And I do like what he said, that, and if they do not show up, now you have an entity that at no cost to the public will go out and find them, because they're driven by that whole
right. And I want to add, if Topo can't find the suspect, they have to pay the entire bond.
Right, the entire bond, which means you lose a house and all the rest of that stuff.
So
everything you put up.
$50,000 bond that he took the $5,000 to post that $50,000 bond, if that suspect skips out and they can't find him, the bail bond now has to provide that whole $50,000 to the county.
Sure, that's right. And that's why they ask for the collateral. And that's why I think if you put up real estate has to be like some multiple of what the bail amount is. It's like 5 times what the bail amount is or something if you're going to put up a house.
Yeah.
It's got to be so then they get that, I guess, and then they can sell it and do whatever.
But I also want to say this, that in recent years, as California goes soft on crime, in recent years, even the bail bond industry itself, because I have some friends in this business, I was talking with one not long ago, and he was saying that now if the 10% of the bond, like the $50,000 they use, the $5,000, if the people don't have $5,000
in cash,
they'll take payments, for God's sakes. They set it up. They found that they have had to adjust also.
Oh, wow.
To people, because of the bad economy and jobs and stuff like that. They've had to make some adjustments as well. So
because it's worth their time to do it. Sure,
it is. And it makes it easy for the normal citizen. Look, the bail was set up. A normal person who goes to jail who doesn't have a criminal history, if you just get arrested for DUI, you're not going to sit in jail. In fact, you're going to get released on your own recognizance.
Typically, yes. If you've got a job and you
correct.
Yeah.
However, if you're a career criminal, if you have an extensive criminal history, it doesn't matter whether they're violent or not. The point is, you're a criminal.
Yeah.
You won't stop doing crimes. So now you're in jail for this crime. Why would we let you out?
Okay, but here's the thing, and I don't think anybody is really. I think they're going to be unintended beneficiaries of this. I don't think anybody disputes that that's an issue.
Wait, who's the unintended beneficiary?
The unintended beneficiary is the
The criminal.
Career criminal, right.
Correct.
He's the beneficiary of it,
That's
but I
right.
think it's set up to address the fact that if a rich man kills somebody and a poor man kills somebody, the rich man can be home day after tomorrow, and the poor man has got to sit there because the rich guy can come up with whatever bail is on murder, if there is a bail, and sometimes there is a bail, and or if he robs some or he beats somebody up, the rich guy can get out of it, and the poor guy's got to sit there in jail waiting on his sentence or waiting on his court date or whatever.
That's not exactly accurate.
What do you mean?
I mean, I know somebody who was arrested for manslaughter, and they had money, and even though he was able to, the bail was like $80,000 or something,
right?
80 or 100 grand, or that was the 10% of $1 million or whatever. So, even though he was able to he wasn't able to just walk right out, like, oh, I'm posting my bond, I'm walking out. They had him on, he was, in the local jail for a minute, and then the bond, they had the hearing, and the judge approved the bond. But they had the money, so So he, he eventually got out. But then he went to trial and went to go do his time.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying in the interim, though, I'm not saying he gets a lighter sentence.
But
I'm saying in the interim, though, the guy, if it's $1 million. And your guy's got $80,000, and my guy doesn't have $80,000. The guy with that $80,000 is not going to be taking a shower in his house and eating at McDonald's. He's going to be tossing salads and taking a communal shower, and that's part of punishment.
I don't know if
they're not punished the same. Is what I'm saying.
I don't know if they serve salad in the prison.
Oh, they serve it. They serve it. They're not supposed to be, but they serve it.
The point that I'm trying to make is that. The system works. The guy who, it was an accident, but technically it's manslaughter, and so you have to, somebody has to pay for that. You
right. Going to jail, he's going to go do his time. I'm talking about that period in between, which could be how long.
But here's the difference. This guy has no criminal history, isn't a career criminal, hasn't committed crimes all of his adult life. That was one mistake. This guy over here who doesn't have the money is a career criminal with an
Not necessarily. Okay. Maybe he's a bus driver. Maybe he drives for MTA.
Okay.
And he's got a job, but he's just not rich. He's not rich enough to come up with $80,000 in cash.
Why can't he OR if let's just say it's not harm?
We're talking about that same situation you talked about where somebody killed somebody
by accident.
They dead, right? So that happened, and now your guy with the money gets to go home. At some point,
for a minute,
he gets to go home while the trial is while he goes through the motions for trial.
Correct.
The other guy gets to sit in jail because he doesn't have the money to get out, and in the meantime, he loses his job. He does whatever because he can't afford to post that bond to get out, and that's why people are saying it's not fair because you could have two people who are identical in every way, shape, and form except for their income levels. And the guy with the higher income level is going to go home and be in bed with his own wife. And the guy who doesn't have that income level is going to be at home wondering who's at home in bed with his wife.
Well, it's going to be his best friend. You had no to wonder about.
That's the disparity that people have an issue with.
That's not a fair argument.
How come?
How are you going to? You can't say, if they're equal.
In every way except income level.
They're going to get the same treatment from the criminal justice system. So if they're equal and this guy can bail out and this guy can't.
Right.
And it's just because of money, not because
of money.
Not because of criminal history or
just because of money,
career criminal. He's going to, unless it's murder or something, he's going to be able to OR or bond out.
Then how come your boy didn't OR or bond out? How come he had to come up with $80,000?
He did bond out.
That's what, 80 because he had $80,000.
That's right.
But he didn't OR out. That's what I mean.
He didn't OR.
He didn't OR out, which means if he was poor, he wouldn't have been able to OR out.
Right.
If he was poor, he would have sat in jail.
But we're talking about you're talking about two different kind of people.
No, I'm not. The only difference is income level.
Yeah, I know, but there's nobody. It's not an accurate argument.
How do you mean?
There's nobody. The people that are in prison like that, they're not all equal. For God's sakes.
Why not?
What do you mean, why not? Because some people aren't career criminals.
Right.
And they do a thing, whatever the thing is,
okay,
and they end up in prison. The rest of the prison are career criminals that are in and out of the system.
Okay,
and,
but I'm talking about two people. Okay,
and they've been in
let me give you a better example. Two kids working at Kenny's shoe store. I don't think they even got Kenny's shoe store no more, but they're working at Kenny's shoe store. And they stop and they're going to go buy something they shouldn't have, cocaine or something illegal, heroin, okay?
They're both going to buy heroin.
They're both going to buy heroin. And they go to some spot in the same car and they buy heroin.
Kids?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
From the Palisades?
Whatever.
Okay.
No, because we're going to have a disparity here. So one kid's from Palisades. The other kid's from Harbor City down the street, but they went to high school together. Okay?
And the other kid came out of.
So they get caught.
Nixon's.
They both get caught with an 8-ball of heroin. Okay, does heroin come in 8 balls? I think it does, doesn't it? Or is that cocaine? Anyway,
cocaine does.
A usable and saleable amount. They both get caught with 3 grams of heroin. How about that?
Okay.
And they get caught and they get arrested and they go off to jail. Same time. The kid from the Palisades.
Are they arrested for possession?
They're both arrested for possession.
Or possession for sale?
Not possession for sale. It doesn't matter. Possession for sale, possession, whatever. Okay. Identical crime, whatever it is. They're both arrested for the identical crime.
But one's Beverly Hills PD.
No. They're in the same car together. So they got.
They're in the same car.
They're in the same car because they work together at Kenny's shoe store. Okay.
And they both made a purchase.
They both made the purchase.
No, they both made a purchase.
They both made separate purchases.
Okay.
Put their dope in their pockets. They got in the car. They started driving down the street, but it was under surveillance. The car gets pulled over. Beep. They both get caught, and they both have the identical amount of heroin. In fact, they both got it in their left front pockets. This is identical in every way, except one kid's parents can afford to bail him out, and the other kid's parents can't afford to bail him out. These are 20-year-old college students. So the kid who's got a rich family gets to go home. The kid who doesn't have the rich family, even though he did the exact same thing, exact same place, had the dope in the exact same pocket, he's got to sit in jail.
Is he an adult or is he?
They're both 20 years old. They're both college age.
All right.
So how is it the kid with the rich family gets to go home and the kid who doesn't have the rich family got to sit in jail? That's clearly the only difference here is income level. And that's the thing that people find distasteful, and that's the thing that people are pushing for bail reform for, is that it's a disadvantage if you're poor in this system. If you have money, you have an advantage. That's not what this country's supposed to be about.
Well, I'll tell you this. In addition to being a police officer, I worked with a friend of mine who you know, and we did criminal defense investigations.
I know that guy.
Right out of the county. And
his mama's favorite son.
Favorite son. Mm-hmm. And, I'll say a couple things. Well, number one, there's no normal people in prison, in jail.
What?
Facing serious violent felony charges. I'm just telling you.
So there's no normal people.
I'm just telling you. That's number one.
So there's some cherries. Everybody loses their cherry. There's some cherries in there.
Let me just finish. I'm just telling you what my experience in the jails was.
Okay.
And,
you know why, though? Because you dealt with people who didn't have the opportunity to bail out because they didn't have any money. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me tell you why that doesn't matter. We caught a kid with a second-degree murder, 20-year-old adult.
Okay.
Second-degree murder. And we go to we go to the jail up there, and we go and talk to him, and on the telephone, the window. He tells us the story. He lured this woman to the car, and
he cops to it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
He was afraid the gang was they came to him, said, "Hey, you got to go do this thing, and you know the girl, and so if you don't, we're gonna kill you." And they shot his house. I was like, "What can I do?" So, could you go to the police?
Yeah, you go to the police. Oh. I didn't think about that.
Anyway, so they bring him a gun. He goes and he does his thing. And then, he crashes the car. He's a kid. He's a 20-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Not a gang member, but a gang affiliate.
Sure.
And, after talking with him and, interviewing about the crime and just his whole thing about, she just turned and she told me, "No, please don't do it." And I just shot her. I shot her, and she still moved. I shot her again.
Oh, shit. He's copping all that? Damn. I know you're glad that glass was there, huh?
We walked out of there, and, it was raining. It was raining real hard, and, so put our things up in our little suits. And
just smoke a cigarette as you're coming out?
My partner, he goes, "Officer?" He still calls me officer. He goes, "Officer, thank God we got jails. And we rented the car. And
Yeah, sure, definitely.
but my point is that if that kid had come from a rich family and they were able to get him out of there, that kid is a threat because of his mindset, because of, it's not just the money, it's the mindset, it's the family system, it's the neighborhood, it's education.
I agree with you.
It's a whole bunch of other stuff.
I agree that kid, even if he was rich, wouldn't have been able to get out.
It's just not, and I never,
maybe.
And I never met, all the time I spent in probation camps and California Youth Authority camps working with incarcerated youth, I never came across anybody who didn't deserve to be right where they were.
Okay, but see, that's the part you're not getting. So that's like me saying that the whole time that I taught at Harvard, I never met a kid who couldn't pass the SAT because they don't get that far. So if I teach at Harvard, I'm not going to meet a kid who had trouble passing SAT because everybody there had no trouble passing SAT. That's how they got there. So everybody you dealt with at CYA are the ones who couldn't afford good lawyers and the ones who didn't have the influence to maybe get some shit done onto the left and maybe, had a different background or whatever. So, you're not going to meet those kids in CYA. Typically, they don't go there.
They're all the same background.
Typically, that's what I'm saying. Typically, they don't go there.
In fact, they all look alike.
You don't meet those kids. I grew up with a guy and him and his brother, and they were little gangsters, okay? And so I asked, I go, well, fuck it, I'll say their names. I go, when is Stan and Sean going to go to get some time? Because they're out here fucking up. They're running wild. And somebody said, oh, you don't know who their father is? I said, no. Their father was a prominent attorney, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know this, and you wouldn't know that to see how they had conducted themselves. But their father was a prominent attorney, and as a result, they got out of a lot of shit that they wouldn't have been able to get out of if their father wasn't a prominent attorney. Mm-hmm. Okay? So we see these differences in socioeconomic system, and that is what it is. But when it comes down to the bail system and people being treated differently, you literally shouldn't be able to come up and say, oh, I got this much money in my pocket, let me go home. And the other guy, and they say, you got money in your pocket? No, I ain't got money in my pocket. Then you got to stay here. Yeah. Because that's what it boils down to. And if you're violent, typically, even though we're going to see a case where it didn't always happen that way, but if you're violent, that kid that killed that girl, his father could have been anybody. He probably still wouldn't have been granted bail. They're not saying we're going to let everybody out. What they're saying is there's other things they want to look at to decide whether you're worthy to be let out in the street, beside the fact that you can put up the damn money. Because people can put up money, and they should walk because they can put up the money, and other people can't. We would let you go, but you ain't got no money, is what people hear being said to them. We would let you go, but you ain't got no money, so you got to sit here.
Well, we're going to say we would let you go.
Well, we would let you go home. You're going to be back now. But in the meantime, you could go kick it at home. And if you think about the fact that jail costs are driven up by keeping those people in jail when they could be at home, put a fucking ankle monitor on them or something, whatever you're going to do, and then have them come back later, then you're going to save on costs that way too. Now, there is the public safety threat, though, of letting people out of jail who would normally be locked up. Right? I mean, we know that. That's just how that is.
Yeah, Prop 47 already did that.
I know, but now even if they screw up,
along with AB 109,
but if they screw up, then you can hold them for a little while. But now probably not. So that's the only thing that I have I have an issue about, is that it will let more people of every economic level go who shouldn't be let go. Is that? So at least you got to lock some of them up and not let them out, no matter how much money. Because they didn't have the money, shit. They weren't out still robbing and raping and stealing and shit. But anytime it comes down to, we're going to do this differently for you because you have money, and not for you because you don't have money, that's a problem. It's just not fair.
I think it's nonsense, number one. But I think if the criteria is, are you a criminal? Whether you got money or not, are you a criminal?
Sure.
Okay, no bail.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing. Why am I asking you these questions if you're not a criminal? If you didn't commit a crime, why am I asking you these things? How are you here if you didn't commit a crime?
Because your criminal history says something about you.
And that's part of what happens during that hearing with the judge you're talking about. It says, could a judge still set bail? If a judge determines the person is a flight risk, he or she can still set bail, but at the least restrictive level necessary to ensure a defendant's return to court. The thing was that people were getting caught up who weren't criminals. The drunk driving guy,
give him a $10 bail,
just for something to do, right? The petty thief, the first charged, drug possession person, whatever. these certain people could bail out, other people weren't able to bail out. And the guy who can't bail out, now he's sitting there, he's going to lose his job. He's costing me and you money because he's sitting in there eating.
If he's a career criminal, for God's sake.
Career criminals are a different thing.
He's not losing his
career
job.
criminals are a different thing.
About?
I don't think anybody's talking about letting career criminals out. I think
they are.
No, I think you're talking about
do you know why
doing something different than bail.
Do you know why Bob Hertzberg wants to do this?
Why is that?
Because people falsely believe that the criminal justice system is racist towards black people and people of color.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm so glad you said it. I'm glad you said that. I'll remember that. Go ahead.
And so Hertzberg is trying to do what you and Eddie Goodman and Trish, y'all have these positions that say, gee, you know, they've had it hard, and sure they're criminals, and yeah, they're career criminals, but they're just people. They're not bad people. They're just people who had bad things happen to them. And as
you never heard me say that.
And as a result, they've turned to crime.
You never heard me say that.
And because of racism in law enforcement, when they turn to crime, they end up in jail or dead.
Okay. So that's whole fiction spun out of whole cloth. Because you ain't never heard me say that.
The fiction.
Because to me, I'm aware that a black criminal's victim is most likely going to be another black person. So to me, I don't have any issue with the community being cleaned up. My problem is, and this is where the racism comes in, and this has been proven. And you know, of course, there's a history in this country that we can't ignore. Which
is not relevant in 2017.
Sure it is if it's still happening.
No, it's not.
They just did the study, in Mississippi is where they found that black defendants were given higher bail amounts than white defendants because judges had that latitude to give higher bail amounts out. Because, you know, judges got wide discretion on that bail thing. They could set bail they got a whole thing. They got a bail schedule they kind of loosely follow, but typically judges can set bail however they want to do it. They have wide discretion and latitude. And they found that there was discrimination against black defendants in the Mississippi courtrooms. And this is now. This ain't 1817 or 1917. This is 2017. This is a problem. And it was a pattern, and it may not even been something the judges themselves were aware of, but they were doing it. So, yeah. There is still that problem.
I don't know the story, so I don't know why the judges did what they did in each of those individual cases.
Because they're in Mississippi?
It can't be that simple, number one. So number two, if you're going to make a statement like that about that case, you have to actually research the cases, and you have to say, here's what he did. Here's why the judge did what he did. Here's what this... It
wasn't one case. It was a study with a trend. It was a trend that went that way.
But you have to know what happened. It can't just be, did this judge do this to this X many of people? For God's sake, I mean, you know, if you're going to investigate, you have to investigate. You can't just look at numbers, because the numbers don't give you context. That's content without context. You have to have the context in which those decisions were made to understand why the judge did what he did. That's one. Number two, it doesn't matter what one judge in Mississippi.
There's not one judge. Nobody said one judge.
Mississippi. How many? Was 100 of them?
10 of them? They just did a statewide survey.
So every damn judge in Mississippi is doing this.
I didn't say every judge was doing it.
I'm asking.
There was a trend amongst the judges that were surveyed in the state of Mississippi.
How many?
And this is what they came up with.
How many?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, so
don't mean they don't exist.
It's interesting. It was interesting. It's meaningless, for God's sake.
It's not meaningless. If you're a black defendant and you're sitting there in Mississippi and you think, damn, I stole this car on a joyride, and my neighbor Billy Bob down the street stole a car on a joyride last year, and Billy Bob got to go on to college in the fall, and he's on probation. But you're thinking my black ass may not get that break, even though I'm going to college in the fall too. At least I thought it was, but now going into this courtroom so it's not irrelevant to that person. Because it's real to them.
How about if your boy just doesn't steal the car?
Well, Billy Bob stole the car and didn't have to go to prison.
Who cares what Billy Bob's doing?
Billy Bob got bail.
Who cares?
Billy Bob got a lighter sentence.
Who cares what Billy Bob did? Why can't your boy just not do a crime?
Okay, that's fine, but I don't want him treated differently. You don't want your son treated differently because of the color of his skin. And don't say, well, he shouldn't have done it because Billy Bob shouldn't have done it either.
Let me tell you something.
They're both wrong. So give them both the same amount of time. Treat them the same is all anybody's saying.
You can't have that, for God's sakes.
Why not?
Because people aren't the same.
That's the ideal. The ideal is
every individual is different. They come from.
But what shouldn't be different is how much money they have and the color of their skin. That's what shouldn't be the defining thing there.
The color of your
and all too often it is.
It's irrelevant. Nobody cares.
Who told you that?
I just said it. What do you mean? Who told me that?
That the color of somebody's skin is irrelevant?
That's right. And I'm going to tell you this.
It's supposed to be, and usually it is, but all too often when it counts, it's not. And that's unfortunate. And that happens to white people, too. Do you think, I would hate to be a white defendant going to some of these courtrooms in Inglewood and Compton sometimes. Believe me.
Or Torrance.
Well, Torrance, I don't think. No, I think Torrance should be all right. But,
no, I'm just telling you. I don't have permission to tell you the story, and maybe I'll get permission for next time.
Okay.
Next time we're here to tell the story. But there's a person that we know, and not you and I, but Patricia and I, and this person has no criminal history. 50 years old. Same job, 30 years. Got into I better not say, but nobody was killed. But
Okay.
people were injured, vehicle related.
Sure.
Thing. That when this person went to the court, the probation officer at the court, they did their evaluation, and they looked at her criminal history, they looked at everything, and they said, this person should really just be on probation, should be a fine, a restitution,
Right.
classes, community service, the whole laundry list of stuff that you have.
That you do other than going to jail.
Because everybody, they recognized that this person was not criminal. They're not going to kill nobody. There's not a flight risk. None of those things were true. And this person was able to bail out. And I'm trying to pick my words carefully here, but was able to bail out and took a plea bargain, which was a huge mistake, and is now in the California state prison system. And they are whiter than white.
So what should they have done instead of taking a plea bargain? Should have fought it?
They should have fought it. $20,000 attorney, and you got nothing. I would ask, what's the defense strategy? This is what we did. Just when I wasn't a cop, this is what we did.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the cops say. It's Denzel said it in Training Day. It's not what you know. It's what you can prove.
Exactly.
So what's the strategy that they're going to use to defend this person? What are they challenging? Are they challenging the officer? Are they challenging the testing? Are they are they making any motions to nothing?
Right. Well, it's not that white people don't go to prison. Sure, they do.
But my point is, this person is not a criminal. This person is not a career criminal. There's white criminals. There's no doubt about that.
Sure.
And they're all up there, whiter than white in prison, all tatted up.
Polar bear.
Seen them before.
Sure.
So, there's black, white. Every race is up there. Everybody's equal. Well, I don't know if they're equally, but
everybody's in the joint.
Everybody up there.
Right.
Everybody up there. But this is clearly a case where this person that I'm talking about has no business in a California state prison. Just there's no way to justify why this person had to go to jail.
So they got sent to prison because they were white? They got discriminated against, or what?
White, affluent, lousy attorney. And
but I'm saying that the color of their skin play a part in why they went to the joint.
Yeah, because in many of today's courts, people like Bob Hertzberg are trying to make everything fair. And so
damn you, Bob Hertzberg, for trying to make the world fair.
Yeah,
who do you think you are, Bob Hertzberg?
Yeah, you
should be ashamed of yourself, Bob.
The world's
Hertzberg.
not fair. That's childish. That's childish.
But that's the ideal. That's the ideal we're supposed to shoot for.
It's ridiculous.
It's an unrealistic. Everybody fair.
It's an unrealistic goal to attain.
Sure, it is. So is perfection. Doesn't mean we don't strive for it.
It's a childish thing to pursue. Like, the world's not going to be fair to you or to me or to the producer. You're going to create your reality. I'm going to create mine. She'll create hers.
Sure.
And what color we are, for God's sakes, is not even going to matter. We're going to do what we do, and we're either going to make it do what it do, or we're going to fail. And when we fail, we're going to make adjustments, and we're going to just keep going, or we're going to abandon it and move on to something else.
Okay.
We're not going to turn to a life of crime, for God's sakes.
Absolutely.
That's how most of the people that I know live, who aren't criminals.
Right.
They're doing a thing or several things that produce income or some benefit to them and their family,
right.
and their race has nothing to do with it.
Well, that again, that's what we shoot for, right? That's the mindset that we all should have. That's what we should strive for, no doubt. but you still can't act like the playing field shouldn't be level. We shouldn't strive to have it level.
You can't level. It's not a grass field, for God's sakes. It's flawed human beings making.
So then we should have left Jim Crow in place then. Why remove Jim Crow? That was done to level the playing field, to make life more fair for Americans, right? So it's not to say that you shouldn't strive for that. Now, we're not going to ever hit it because you're going to fall short of that mark of perfection, but you still got to do it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So we should love Jim Crow then.
It's a that's a childish thing to say, number one.
How do you figure that?
It's a silly thing to say.
Tell me how.
Because of course the Jim Crow law shouldn't be.
But that was done because what? Because they weren't fair, right? Jim Crow laws weren't fair. I think we can all agree that, right?
Okay.
So that's why they changed it.
Okay.
Okay. So then, what's wrong with that?
So now we're that. What year was that? For God's sake, I don't know why we're arguing things that happened.
My point is that things should be fair, and you seem to say that things shouldn't be fair.
I'm just saying that life isn't fair. For God's sakes,
yeah, we know that.
You're driving a Mercedes.
Okay.
I'm driving a Nissan truck.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I made different choices. I don't know.
Why can't I have the Mercedes? If you have one,
I made different choices.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, wait a second. Shouldn't the
playing field was level? Your old ass had a head start.
It needs to be
the playing field was level.
But I don't think so. It's not fair.
Well, I certainly didn't have no advantage. Believe me,
it's just not fair, though.
Well,
I don't think it's fair.
Think about this.
In fact, I think Bob Hertzberg should do something to make sure that I have equal access to a Mercedes.
You did have equal. They'll sell you one. Go down to the dealership. They sell me one. They'll sell you one.
Wait a second.
I'm on my third one. They'll get you one.
I want Bob Hertzberg to write a law that says if George Holt can
you're interfering with capitalism.
How many?
You might get assassinated messing with capitalism.
How many Mercedes you got?
I only have two now.
Okay, so if you got two, I don't got one. I should at least have one.
But you can go get one though.
Actually, to make it fair, if you have two, I should have two. And there ought to be a law.
And they will sell you two. They will.
Well, I don't want them to sell me one.
That's how I got mine.
I just want to.
If we're talking about fair, I didn't walk in and say, "Hey, Billy Bob got two, give me two." I walked in and I did what I needed to do to get it, and they'll let you do the exact same thing I did.
Yeah, but
they'll let you do it.
I don't have SGI. Damn it! Shit.
Well, you're getting there. Though.
I don't have SGI.
You're getting there. So hey, we got more bail reform videos to show, believe it or not. So we got one more. We got two more, but we're definitely going to show the next one, video 2, on bail reform, and then we'll
leave
show
the
another
bail
face
alone,
of it.
For God's sakes.
Bail reform.
Tell Bob Hertzberg to do something
1.
better with his time. For
Damn
God's
you, Bob
sake.
Hertzberg.
From what I've seen, this bail reform is not working at all. I see on Facebook, I see on the Daily Journal and everything. Everybody's opposing it. Me, as if I wanted to sit here and say, as a criminal or think like a criminal, if I do something today, I'm getting right out. I'm good. I'm speaking to all governors of all 50 states, 52. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you let someone like me of the past come back and haunt you some kind of way? This guy just got let out 3 days before he killed my son. 3 days. And he got caught with a gun. With a gun. So when they caught him again, he had a gun. What's that telling you? Now, I'm just saying, as a criminal, speaking to the governors, do you want me around your nieces, nephews, and your granddaughters and stuff? Your granddaughter over there playing softball. And the guy that just, got caught up with the drugs and stuff, he riding around with a gun at a baseball game. How safe is that? There are 2 little boys right now that are fatherless. One named Christian and one named Amari. And as I said before, everything that I got, whatever it is that I was doing at one point in time, matters nothing now. Those 2 little boys and her right there are who I got to take care of to my last breath.
So that's someone who was a victim, whose son was a victim, and of course he then became a victim of someone who was let out early, who was let out without any bail. Now, again, bail, if I'm a criminal with money, I'm still going to be allowed to post bail and get out. It's not that, that still could have happened if the guy was able to post bail. But clearly more people are going to be out because they don't have that hurdle of money to get out. So clearly, that's why I said about unintended consequence. The unintended consequence of this, I hope it's unintended, is that there will be more people let out. Because some of the people who can't afford it shouldn't be out. So even the people who shouldn't be let out hopefully you would think they would go through this hearing process we described earlier, and they would be denied the right to be let out. But there's going to be more people let out of jail, and that's not always a good thing. I mean, hell, it's rarely a good thing, honestly. So this is a horror story here. This is a situation where a guy should have been locked up because of bail reform. He wasn't. And this is one of the stories that came out of New Jersey, which did bail reform, I guess, January 1st, 2017. I think it was this year. Bail reform went into effect in New Jersey. And there's a horror story.
Yeah.
And there'll be horror stories.
Well, you just mentioned unintended consequences. This is part of the progressive overhaul of the criminal justice system because they believe it's so racist. And you said you hope that the consequences were unintended. What I know is that these people who argue for these kind of silly laws, this Prop 47, AB 109, Prop 57, Prop 4, all this stuff, they're trying to right wrongs that occurred 100 years ago, number one. And number two, they're trying to, they know that there's consequences that are going to come with them. Everybody knows AB 109, 47, and 57, which, turn violent felonies to serious felonies. So, now you can be early released out.
Right, sure.
And so they know there's going to be consequences, but they feel like the consequences, if that guy's kid gets killed by a criminal that we just let out because we reformed bail,
collateral damage,
it's an acceptable loss,
right?
Because we're doing a greater good by making it fair for everyone, and that's just ridiculous.
Exactly, and I agree with you. I mean, and when you see a story like that, you go, well, damn, there's a human cost to this. But then people say, well, what about the human cost of the guys who are in jail? And there may be some guy who should be able to be out, but he can't get the bail money, and he may get shanked tonight in jail, and he dies in there. Where he was out on the street, he wouldn't have died. I mean, you can play that both ways. But when you see a guy,
what if he just didn't do crime?
Well, okay, sure. At least in that case, the criminal dies, right? At least in that scenario, the criminal dies, and not some guy at a softball game, right? So I mean, clearly there's a pushback against it in terms of public safety, and I totally get that. The only problem I've ever had with bail, and this is since I was old enough to understand it and to hear about it, since I was, a teenager or an adolescent at least, is that there's that disparity that if you have money, you can get it, and if you don't have money, you can't get it. And that's the thing that always bothered me about
There's a bunch of stuff that people with money can get that we can't get. Who cares, for God's sake? Who said I should have, if you're in the movie industry and you live in Hollywood Hills, you can do stuff I can't do. Who says that somebody should write a law to make it fair for me to also...
Let's talk about that, too, because that's a good point. So, writing a ticket to a single mother and, putting a $50 parking ticket on her car is going to hurt a lot more than if you put a $50 ticket on some movie producer's car. He doesn't care.
In California,
that's like a nickel to him.
In California, if you don't pay it, though, we're not going to suspend your license. So,
parking tickets, they're going to you'll take your car though. I give you an example of rich behavior. Okay, and I can't say who it was because this happened while I was on duty. But we had a famous singer who was married to a famous rapper. They're no longer together. But she was late for a flight, and she pulls up to the airport in her Rolls Royce, and she gets out and she grabs her bags and leaves her car at the curb. And the parking guy, the parking enforcement, the traffic control officer goes, "Hey, ma'am, you can't leave your car there." She goes, "I can't miss my plane. Go ahead and tow it." And she went and got on her damn plane, and she took off. They towed the car. And she sent her assistant to come into the station to get her car out of impound, because to her the money was nothing, and she could pay somebody to take care of the hassle and inconvenience. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So she was able to do something that most of us wouldn't be able to do. Wouldn't even think about that because it's such a big deal. But for her, it wasn't. So you're right. There are certain things that are going to have a disparate impact on people based on their level of income, but that shouldn't be one of them. Whether you got to sit in jail for doing the same crime as somebody else or not. That to me is something that can be helped. We can do something about that.
I don't know. Most, a lot of criminals that I've met over the years, their moms and tios and tias, they all get together and they'll put, parents. I've seen parents put up the house and they don't want to see mi hijo torcido like that. You see what I'm saying?
Torcido.
All gackled up. They don't want to see that.
Okay. Well, on that note, speaking of family friends chipping in, we have this is a big deal. I remember when this happened. I guess it was last year. But we have video 3 there, producer, for the bail reform deal. And this is an interesting story about somebody who was able to go to friends and family and get them to chip on in.
Boom.
Get her out to pokey.
A Californian woman accused of murdering her ex-boyfriend is out on bail after posting $35 million.
Yeah, it's one of the highest bail amounts ever paid in U.S. history. Kit Doe of our San Francisco station, KPIX, has the story.
Tiffany Lee is the multi-million-dollar woman. She burst out of the San Mateo County Jail just after lunchtime and sprinted to a waiting black Cadillac Escalade. Lee posted one of the highest bail amounts ever recorded in the country. After pleading not guilty to murder charges, the judge set the cash bail amount at $35 million. But with the help of 15 to 20 friends and family members, she scraped together about $2 million in cash, which left a balance of $33 million. The state of California allows you to use real estate in lieu of cash, but the property value must be double the amount of the bill, which means Lee's friends and relatives put up a whopping $66 million worth of property on the line to get her out of jail. If Lee tries to flee the country, all that money and property will be forfeited to the government.
There's something about the lurid aspect of the money that shouldn't really dictate whether there's a community interest or a public interest, but unfortunately, I guess it does, so you got to do your job.
The DA's office says the Lee family has ties to China and estimates their wealth to be nearly $200 million. Lee's defense attorney says she's just well-liked in the community.
For people to put up their homes and their businesses and things like that means something, I believe, about their confidence that she's going to return to court and that she's not guilty.
Lee is accused of working with her boyfriend and another accomplice to murder her ex in order to avoid a custody battle for her 2 kids. Keith Green's body was found shot to death and dumped in Sonoma County last year. The victim's friends and family says they are shocked Lee was able to pay that bail.
Right now we're sort of dealing with a David and Goliath situation in there with all this millions of money and power.
So, hey, that's an extreme example. I don't think we've ever seen something like that. But $35 million they came up with.
God love them.
So she don't have to sit in the county jail and eat bologna sandwiches.
God bless America.
That's amazing to me. But that shows that, clearly, if she didn't have that money, her ass wouldn't be getting out because it's a $35 million bail. Now, it could be argued that if she didn't come from such wealth, then the bail wouldn't have been that high, right? Mm-hmm. If she had been working at Kenny's shoe store and killed her baby daddy, the judge wouldn't have put a $35 million bond on her. So you could argue that side of it.
The judge is hoping she'll run.
I know, right? Because we get some of that property.
We'll take it.
She would be a flight risk if not for that huge amount because she's got ties to China.
Yeah.
And she could just get off the X and be gone, and then we don't know where she is. So I thought that was amazing. But now here's another thing. And you might have had some involvement in this.
Because she could move to another state and get a job at Panda Express and not be noticed.
Oh, wow. Did you say that?
I'm just saying that she could.
The return of Gil O'Reilly.
Oh, wait a second. No, all the cooks in Panda Express are all Mexican. My bad.
That was a nice setup. That was good. That was all right. That was good. That was good. So you're saying she could get a job at a nail shop or something? What are you trying to say? What's happening?
Maybe,
wow.
I don't know. Maybe at Wonkok.
Oh, yeah.
Wonkok.
Alpine and New High.
Boom.
Shout out to all my LA coppers who've had Code 7 at Wonkok, Alpine and New High. The orange chicken, the Mongolian beef and the orange chicken were the things that everybody liked out there. Mm-mm. Okay, so check this out. And again, you probably heard this and you may have been involved in this. So we won't say the guy's name.
Okay.
But there was a guy who was a very famous guy who was known for making shock videos, and we'll just say that. And he got in some serious trouble, and he had to go to jail. And he was sitting in prison. I want to say it was contempt of court or something, up near the California-Nevada border. And they said he could have visiting hours with an officer of the court for as long as it took, whether it was as an attorney or an investigator or whatever. And and I was going to go up there, and you know the guy I'm talking about. I was approached about going up there and staying in a nearby motel, hotel, or whatever, because he wanted somebody of a certain age. I already had met the guy, so we kind of knew each other. And he wanted to be able to be out of his cell, out of general population. The job was to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, go into the attorney room, and sit there with him. And he wanted somebody to talk about sports and girls and whatever else with until it was lunchtime. He'd go to chow, then he'd come back, and then you'd come back and sit in the room with him and just kick back. And he felt safe, and he wanted, and then to 5 o'clock, then he went back to his module, and then you went back to do whatever you were going to do in town and go to your motel room. And that was a gig that was supposed to be until he got out of there.
Wow.
Okay? And again, you know the guy.
I know what you're talking about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You remember that caper? Yeah, I got called up on that caper. And I was preparing myself to go, and I think he got moved or something. He did something else, some lawyerly shit, and he got out of it some kind of way where that wasn't necessary.
But this is an example. He ended up on the other side of the country.
Oh, did he? Mm-hmm. So I haven't heard from him. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him.
Well, he's out now, but
yeah, he's out now. But I'm saying, yeah. So that's what happened. I think so. He probably just engaged somebody on the other side of the country to do the same thing. But yeah, that was his deal because he was still allowed to work on his defense or whatever, and that was the deal. So that's an example of a wealthy person being able to have a different experience. But he was not the flight risk that this person here appears to be to me. And I just thought that was something else, man, that $35 million, and people actually came up with it.
Yeah.
I thought that judge was shocked as shit. He probably thinking, okay, she got a little bit of money. Watch this, $35 million. Boom.
Yeah.
And they said, hold on now, Your Honor. We need about 45 minutes to get that $35 million together. We got to scrape that together. We got to shake out these ashtrays and hit these couch cushions, come up with this $35 million. We'll see you in a minute.
Look, if we get a $20,000 bond, we got to scramble to get that $2,000.
That $2,000
to the bondsman.
Well, hey, he'll let you make payments. You said, right?
We got to cut. Well, now they do.
Well, you know what? So hey, Vivian Ferguson, again, thank you for the idea there with the bail reform. I think that's something we got to keep an eye on because it's sweeping the nation. There's bail reform going from East Coast to the West Coast.
Sure, it's there's a movement, to in this effort to fair things out, I guess, over American history or something, to go soft on criminals. It's just let's go soft on criminals.
You even soften your voice when you said that.
I know. You have to. You actually have to because there's too many black men and Hispanic men in the prison system.
Well, yeah, there are.
And quite frankly, I think that
overrepresented
the criminal justice system is, in fact, the new Jim Crow.
That's been said. You've heard that before, haven't you?
It's Michelle Alexander's book's ridiculous.
All right,
all nonsense.
Well, listen, I'm expecting some comments on this.
Make me drop my voice.
Drop it and make it soft. So, listen, we have time for one more video. This video we put up. I posted a couple of days ago, and actually a couple people posted it. And shout out to LT Ward. I think he's the one who tagged me in it initially. And I posted it on my page, and there was a whole bunch of commentary from people who was the police and people ain't never been to police, and they had all kind of opinions on it. So this happened in Long Beach, California,
Beach,
home of Booyah Tribe, Snoop Dogg, and Cameron Diaz, as well as the Queen Mary.
Cameron Diaz
went to high school with Snoop. Long Beach Polytechnic. They're high school classmates. Isn't that something?
Okay.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
She said she used to buy her weed from him. Anyway, so true story.
Wow.
Anyway,
God bless America.
So we're gonna play that video and then we're gonna come back and talk about what we've seen here. It's a good one.
Open this back door! Open this back door, bitch! Open this back door! Hey! What is on my homeboy? Huh? You wanna be a slave, bitch? Oh, okay, what's up? Bring out your punishment. What's up, bitch? What's up? What about puppy?
Get on the ground!
Get on the ground!
Shit.
Stop! 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 No! Fuck you and that bitch! Fuck you and that bitch! What? Stop. What you trying to get at me for, homie, huh? What's up? What's up, bitch? Huh?
All right. So she was a feisty one. And she was under the
Why are you
influence
trying to
of
claim on
something.
me, mijo?
Clearly, yeah. Why are you trying to get at me? But we should have had a disclaimer. A lot of profane and obscene language happening in that video. Because she had a mouth on her, man.
Yeah, she did.
Man. Well, you know what? When I saw the video, my first thought was, okay, it's time for the taser. Because she's wanting to fight, and, you know, it's just too much. And, you know, because you take that baton out, you're thinking, man, there's going to be broken bones and da-da-da-da. So let's just hit her with the taser. Or as my boy, my classmate and co-worker, good friend, Floyd Johnson posted, taser, taser, down goes Frazier. Because that's what would happen. You know? So you know, that was my first thought. But a lot of people are like, hey, he came out, worked that baton. Made the baton. He made it do what it do.
Yeah,
you know,
there was nothing wrong with the officer's.
Oh no, he didn't do anything
reaction.
wrong at all. Nobody even said that.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, coming from the old school when everybody didn't carry a taser,
right?
You know, one of the things that I've noticed over the years, you know, both as a policeman and then later as a defense investigator, is you see cops relying a lot more on the taser.
Sure.
And because of that, they're hesitant to go hands on with people.
Right. Now, I give you that. Absolutely.
Now Long Beach PD, you know, they don't play down there.
The fact that he was carrying a straight stick lets you know what the mindset
That's
is
right.
in that agency.
And they all,
he still had that
a lot
straight
of them
stick.
do. They have that straight one.
Yeah,
It's
that
just a little
Cocobolo.
bit longer.
Right.
And you heard it. He was getting some good strikes in. So
Sure.
I don't know why she wasn't. The one that hit the bone, you heard the crack. It sounded like a home run, for God's sakes.
A friend of mine posted on here when I put the video up. He said he was in McDonald's once, and I guess a cop was getting out of his car, and his baton fell. And he said the sound the baton made when it hit the ground made me know I never wanted to get hit with with one of those.
Yeah, I thought the officer did a great job, and you know, God love him for taking the stick out and trying to take care of business. And you know, you saw the civilian run up at the just as you hear the siren in the back.
Oh, I thought he was a plainclothes. I thought he was a detective or something. He was a civilian.
Yeah, he was just how he runs up.
Now the other cops are here, right?
Yeah, now that everybody, let me jump in and try to.
Yeah, let me get my.
Where were you 5 minutes ago?
Let me get my KNX Hero of the Week award.
But,
well, okay. So then one of my friends, who I've known for a very long time, said he was scared of her. And my thing is this. And my friend who wrote that, he's a fighter. That's his back. He's an MMA guy. He's an MMA coach, etc. So his thing is, you get in there and mix it up. Okay, but you can't when you have to do this every day or potentially every day. You're not trying to get in there and mix it up because you can't keep doing that. Eventually, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose big,
and you're going to hurt,
and you're going to get hurt.
And and if somebody puts you out and gets your gun,
then you're done. You're through gambling.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the thing about that is a fighter gets in there and a fighter gets his nose broken or whatever. Gets a sprain or breaks a finger, that fighter, there's a referee and why there's rules, and that person's not going to stomp you to death in that octagon. And you have 6 months to recover before your next fight. And there's no loss of income to you or anything like that. Whereas a police officer, you got there and get hurt, man, that's a whole different thing. And you can't get too many of those before you have to retire.
Right.
Or you get killed.
And that's not their job.
Right. That's the thing. Right. It's not my job to get here and fight with you.
Exactly. They're not supposed to be out there fighting with people.
Right. Now, I may be called upon to do that, and I'm ready to do that, but it's not like, you want to fight? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, that's not how that goes. We're supposed to avoid that. You want to fight? Well, I don't want to fight, so let me do this instead.
Right.
Because we're supposed to win. That's kind of how that goes. So, yeah, I thought that was a it was a good video for a couple of reasons. Number one, she was very entertaining. And I'm sure when she woke up in custody the next day, she was sore as hell. Oh, knees swelled up like basketballs.
You know, I'm sure it didn't take that. I'm sure it didn't take that long.
Well, whenever the dope wore off.
Yeah,
because she was on something. Clearly, she was on something, or she's insane.
I remember me and my partner Davey Arona backed up 2 officers down there in Harbor Division, and went 10-8 on homeboy who was fighting with one of our guys, and that boy got lit up with batons. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. Well, that was back when you had dusters too. We had a lot of people on PCP.
Well, I'm telling you, the fight was so bad. I don't know if Davey remembers this. But the fight, it was so bad. Batons were swinging. You can't have 4 cops on one guy,
right? Well,
or 3 while one's wrestling. Just hit him with swinging the PRs and. Obviously, we're all kind of in there, and I used to carry the straight stick. Mine was bamboo painted black.
Oh yeah.
And so. And all of a sudden, I see my partner walking away, and he's holding his arm.
Yeah,
and he jumped in the seat, and he's laying like this across. So I look back, and so I walked. There's 2 other officers still trying to, they're getting him into custody. I walked to the car. I said, Dave, what happened? He goes, "What do you fuckers hit me?"
Yeah, that's going to happen. You can't have all that wood flying around while somebody getting popped.
I said, "What?"
Oh, yeah. I've had that happen to me before.
That wasn't me. It wasn't me, Dave, right?
It wasn't me.
Dave, let me tell you about Dave Verona. One time we were going, he goes, hey officer, pull over right quick. I want to buy some lottery tickets. The lottery's $10 million today. So
wow, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, he goes
still
in.
A lot of money.
He buys his ticket. He comes out. He gets in the car. He goes, okay, let's go. I go, hey, man, if you win that $10 million, would you give me one? And Dave looked at me from the passenger side, and he goes, well... Clearly, the question was like, oh, shit,
Right. I would have said, yeah, what are the odds I got to make sure on it? Sure, Gil. I'll give you half of it.
He said, well, I'd probably give you like $1,000.
Oh!
I said, that's how
grimy.
That's how you want to do me.
Damn.
1,000, you get $10 million. You want to get, okay, I see where we're.
$1,000.
You know what? I'm just going to drive.
I'm going to take you and turn you to the station for gambling on duty now, punk. Wow. Come on, man.
That was my boy Arona, Dave Arona.
Yeah, I saw him at the funeral a couple of years ago for Kenny Alexander's funeral.
Yeah. He's a funny dude, man. He's a good guy.
Listen, folks, we're out of time.
Are we?
We are. We're a little overtime, in fact.
A little bit.
A little bit. So listen, right down here in the YouTube section, comment section on YouTube.
Tell George how he's wrong about this.
Yeah, you can go in on us.
Let
us have it.
Make it all level playing field.
Let's talk about level playing fields and bail reform and fairness.
Whoever came up with that?
In the new Jim Crow, etc.
There's level playing
that's
field.
American fairness is supposed to be the American way.
In radio, is it fair that we're here and not at KABC or Sirius XM? Is that fair?
Hey,
is that fair? I'm asking. Or do we need Bob Hertzberg to write a law?
Have
to get
Bob
us on
write a law, but I'm happy where I am, honestly. So I'm good.
I need a check.
XM.
I'm gonna need a check.
Well, you know what? I'd like to start writing them. So yeah, I'm with you.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, we'll get there, and we'll get there right here. So break out that checkbook because we're getting ready to blow up.
As soon as Bob Hertzberg writes a damn law to make it fair,
well, you got to write it. If you want to write him a check, if you want to write a check, then write a letter first.
I want him to level the radio playing field for all of us. That's what I want.
All right, so we'll end on that and write to Bob Hertzberg and tell him to get Gil over to the other station or whatever. So, all right, folks, we'll see you next week on the Ride Along Radio Show. Oh, yeah, and George Holt, Gil Contreras.
Yeah.